Our focus in this video is looking at the body of your essay. This is the real meat of your essay, and it is usually worth the largest amount of points on any rubric. It is the part that will make or break your essay because it includes the production of evidence, the analysis of that evidence, and whether or not you actually answer your thesis. Some people naturally are able to do this, but most students will need some help in knowing how to organize and how to structure this part of their essay. Let's start with knowing how to organize the body of your essay. To help you determine how many paragraphs you should have and how to organize them, start by looking for any natural divisions that the question may imply. If it does imply natural divisions, use these to help you brainstorm. Then, consider if there are any chronological developments implied by the question. Move your essay in chronological order. Third, every time you begin a new thought or idea, begin a new paragraph. And finally, remember that your thesis should show the progression of ideas that you will follow in the body of the essay. If you put it in a certain way in your thesis, follow that order in the body. Now, let's look at what I call the equation of each individual body paragraph. If you struggle to know what to write and how to make each sentence count, this is a great way to remember how to progress in your essay. First, the opening sentence. Don't jump right in. Be sure you give a sentence that indicates what the main idea of the paragraph is about. I refer to this as your body thesis because it summarizes the main idea of the whole paragraph. Your teacher may refer to this as the topic sentence. Next, give your concrete detail, your specific evidence. This could be a person, place, event, law, etc. that proves your point related to this paragraph. Then, follow this detail with an explanation of that fact. Finally, and most importantly, tie this fact back to the thesis or essay topic at large. Why does this fact prove the overall argument of your paper? This is the most difficult step because it requires analysis. It is also the most often missed step. When you finish writing, you should feel a bit like a broken record because you have been talking about that thesis statement or essay topic so often, every few sentences. You'll repeat steps 2, 3, and 4 as many times as you have details in each paragraph. Then, end with your closing sentence. The concluding sentence of each paragraph should sum up the paragraph. In advanced essays, it will also connect to the idea of the next paragraph. We'll go into the meat of the paragraphs in our next video. These steps are seen best by looking at a sample paragraph. We have been working through a sample prompt regarding whether the progressive reforms were successful at resolving social and political concerns between 1890 and 1915. Here was our proposed thesis. Progressive-era reforms were ultimately more successful at the state level as they attempted to resolve the social ills confronting workers and to redistribute political power away from parties between 1890 and 1915. Let's look at part of a sample paragraph addressing the reforms that attempted to fix social ills confronting workers. The first sentence reads, "With most of their success at the state level, progressive reformers sought to address the poor conditions of laborers, both at home and at work, by improving the environment and removing them from these conditions." This body thesis tells us that the paragraph will be about reformers that tried to address the poor conditions of laborers and whether they were successful. The next sentence should include our first concrete detail. It reads, "In opening the Hull House in Chicago, Jane Addams opened her home for immigrants and women who had been victims of the slums." This detail requires further explanation to show that you understand it. The following sentences then read, "She ran training programs and offered English lessons that would help equip immigrants with the skills they needed to be successful and open their doors to women who had been abused." And finally, this evidence must be tied back to the thesis. You will then be advancing your thesis in the essay. Ultimately, this reform and the opening of settlement houses in cities all across America were examples of how progressive reforms actively and successfully responded to the poor conditions of workers at the local and state levels. What would follow next is your second concrete detail, explanation, and tying that detail back to the thesis. And then finally, a closing sentence. So to sum up, following this equation in your writing is a great way to start in order to ensure that you not only present evidence, but also explain it and analyze it. Begin with an opening sentence or body thesis. Follow with a concrete detail, explain that detail, and then tie it back to the thesis. Follow this with as many details as you need, and then finish with a closing sentence. Tying back to your thesis is often the most important step in analysis, and it will ensure that you develop your thesis throughout the essay. The more comfortable you are with these elements, the more you can take liberties with the order and the flow of your writing. As long as all of these elements are present, you will be able to write an excellent essay in all of your social science classes.